Are you guys worried at all about Dignitas' mental state after a game
Yes.
loss like that?
Very much so, and I say that because it's not uncommon to hear, especially during LAN, from a lot of the other pro players. I mean, a lot of this rides off of the mentality of Qvo. How is Zyrhoes feeling? Because in the past, or I should say historically speaking, the tilt factor, I don't want to say that it's like a heavy tilt factor right now, but it is, I think, on the verge of being one of those cases where it can be hard to recover as a player because you should have had that. Like, there's simply no reason in the end for Dignitas to kind of jump the gun with that play, and because of how heavily it backfired, I would see that as being one of those maybe we shouldn't have moments.
I look back at the Super Regionals moment here where it was Dignitas losing to rival 03, dropping to group play, losing to Energy, and losing to Elevate. It was just that non-stop cycle of events that ultimately was the downfall of Dignitas at the end of Season 4. And this could be the beginning of the end as well, but Picks and Bans hasn't really changed. Everything's so far the same as Game 1.
Surprised that Rival let the Honest through once again, though I suppose they are technically 1-0 against it so far today. Now Rival in this spot last time took Sobek Nemesis, and I don't think I'd have much problem seeing them run that back because the Sobek is still flexible, can go to callouts, can go to Deathwalker, and Iceice played very well in the Nem.
I really like the Sobek Nemesis combination, although Dig could potentially be looking towards that or expecting it and maybe already have a strategy in mind to try and better deal with the Nemesis. I think that the Odin felt very strong in terms of being able to limit that mobility at times, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to get the Odin again if you're Dignitas, and I'm not even sure that they would really want Trixtank to have to run back that support either.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to run maybe the Sobek Robin as well, because QvoFred was a little bit too aggressive, and it's so difficult to kill a Robin. As much damage as Nemesis does, you can still find ways to shut her down, but not still keeping things traditional compared to Game 1.
Don't mind the potential for a salty run back here if you're Dignitas. I mean, they were a couple hundred damage off winning this game, so I think there's a reason to go back to what you did, especially with these next two picks. Robin, I think, are easy to lock in here.
And that's the thing. If you look at the top three God choices from both of these teams, they're very sound drafts in general, and they're not exactly compositions that aren't worth trying to run back again, especially if you're Dignitas, where you had so much success in the earlier stages.
Now, if Dignitas does want to go just run it back, or I should say if Rival wants to run it back, they go do the same bans, they pick the Aphrodite. I think that the big change I'd like to see Dignitas make is pick something different instead of the Xing Chen, and then let Variety take the Odin, because in that game, Dignitas take Odin to counter the Aphrodite. That's why they picked it, and then they put it as far away as they could have from the counter matchup, so the Trix wasn't near Deathwalker until the later stages anyways. I'd like to see the Odin closer to the Afro earlier on if they want to go for the same strategy.
The problem with Odin soloing every now and then is when you're disrupted with certain CCs, you're not going to get that Bird Bomb combination off. Aphrodite has the back off and the kiss, and Deathwalker is definitely a player that has very high mechanics to be able to disrupt that flow. And banning away the Odin, they've learned their lesson. Maybe they still go for Afro.
This is kind of forcing the Afro ban from Dig, right? And that's exactly where they go. I don't know that Rival necessarily wanted to pick Aphrodite, but I know they wanted Dignitas to ban it.
Amaterasu, possibly, for Rival, because that was the other God choice that they chose to ban in the first match. And now that they kind of made Dignitas take away the Aphrodite, Deathwalker could still hit Variety by the Aphrodite or the Amaterasu, plus it just boosts their movement speed in general, and they're already a fairly mobile draft.
I think Rival are very worried if Dignitas were to get it, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the course that Rival take. And
but why? Because we've seen very little AMA so far this weekend. I believe PBM played it in support a little bit, but that's just a comfort pick for him. We haven't really seen it.
Outside of Guan Yu, Amaterasu is one of the best, if not the best, warrior in late game team fights. The mobility she'll provide for her teammates, the damage amplification with her aura, 10% increased damage, but it will be the Discordia for now. It's still holding on to their support / solo pick.
I like this patience from Rival as well. They don't need to reveal everything beforehand, and since they have that last pick option, it'd probably be better to prioritize a lane matchup for Deathwalker, because Variety could possibly choose to go hyper aggressive. We have seen that before in the past where Dignitas have dropped a match and then they immediately come out like even more amped up than the previous game that they lost.
Variety has a couple comfort picks in the pool still that are available. The tier that we haven't seen him play in a little bit, though I don't know that you necessarily want to pick that into Sobek Nemesis, as well as the Ymir. Again, don't really want to pick that into Sobek Nemesis. So the wall is pretty good against 3 of Rival's 4 picks thus far.
The one advantage Rival has going for them is they have this last pick to confuse Variety and make sure that Deathwalker has the best possible solo lane matchup thus far.
I know you can.
That's why he didn't pick the Amaterasu.
Yeah, of course. Last pick Achilles, as one team usually does. Dignitas able to last pick one of the strongest gods in the pro scene right now, at least based on his pick ban rate. You can expect that. Sylvanas, the final selection here by Rival, so imagine it'll be Sobek in the solo lane. Pressure versus lack of pressure, at least on the board, but we have seen teams pick the Sobek, kind of bait the enemy solo laner up the lane very far, and then have the jungler come and gank. I think that might be Rival's plan here. Have iceicebaby come over and put pressure onto Variety.
You want to make sure that pre-level 5 Sobek's going to get up to a great start, get his blue buff on the first rotation, on the second as well, and then after that you're able to sustain yourself with that lurking in the water. I'm going to be a little curious to see how aggressive Variety plays it, because Achilles is one of these gods that succeeds early on, struggles in the later stages. He's going to be a sitting duck in some of those team fights with how much control that Rival have between Sobek and the Sylvanas. I'm worried for Variety in the late game.
And Dignitas has struggled in the late game, has done very, very well in the early game. Maybe they didn't need the help there. Maybe we could have gone a little bit later game. Taco, do you feel the same way? Do you like this Achilles pick?
I actually really like Dignitas' draft because you have such heavy CC provided by the Kumbhakarna pick. Plus, Kumbhakarna, I mean, his primary goal here is just going to be to isolate a member. And taking a look at Rival's draft, there's a couple of guys that I probably want to just immediately belly bop up into the air. You've got the Nemesis as well, who's not going to be able to get the benefits off of her shield because Kumba Mez immediately strips that one away. All you need is a little bit of hard CC, and then she doesn't have that reflect.
Well, game 2, Dignitas, can they find a way to bounce back mentally after an incredible game 1 comeback by Team Rival? Let's get right into it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Desk. Ready for game number 3, technically. If anything, it's now a best of 5.
Really? 1 game?
Well, that's because Dignitas came in this with a 1-game advantage. But after that very interesting decision towards the end of that game that looked very much in their bag, it's now 1-1, which means there's only 5 games remaining today. So basically a best of 5.
You know, it's funny, the interesting decision, we usually use interesting as a euphemism for just straight up bad. And I don't know if that's where you were going, but I don't think that was a bad decision. I just think that it was a predictable one that Rival were ready for.
And that's the issue. It was a bad decision because it was predictable, and you were against a Discordia, of all people, a Discordia. The purple carpet of death was waiting the moment they came through, plus 2 Soul Reavers. As we said off air, what I would have preferred to see.
You know what I would have preferred to see?
Go on.
All by myself, I was thinking this off air. They should have put a portal and let a single Odin walk through.
Yeah, because then technically he could have, dropped the ring down. And then if anything, they would have had vision to see where they were all stood for the space and time.
Definitely,
good call.
Definitely not what you said before.
I never would say something like that. I'm not that intelligent to you. I'm just a chair 1, Poke in the dual lane, I should expect. Sobek versus Achilles.
That was so close,
in
though.
the solo lane. What, the play?
Everything about that game was so close, and it's gotta hurt mentally for Team Dignitas. You saw them react and everything, and Zyrhoes by himself almost got it. I do have to rectify something I did say in the game. So the ultimate from Giannis doesn't do damage to the Titan, even if you're aggroing it, believe it or not.
Even if aggro?
Even if aggro. So I will take that back. My mistake for the misinformation. But the comment that I said after the fact, I still stick to. If he's a mage with more than 1 damaging ability, because it is just 1 damaging ability as a Giannis against the Titan, that game is over. But he's Giannis. You don't have the tools. Understand what you have. When you get a hammer, you don't buy screws. So make sure that this time you change things around.
I mean, I don't buy screws. I've only got screws. So I'm just like, I will hammer them if I have to.
Hindu man screwed up forever. Heard it here first.
It's the way I've got to be. 1 minute into the game so far, and Zero's going to get a bit of pressure in the mid lane onto himself. As the dual lane Trixtank and Kellis taking a bit of poke. Kellis will be the healthier of the 2 with those wisps sustain available. And I'm really surprised by the fan vote there, Tom, too. We just saw it come on screen, and Rival got a few more fans voting for them this time than game 1, and nothing's really changed in terms of compositions.
So, I mean, that's sure. That's just recency bias, no problem. Team Dignitas was still the majority, though, and I think that is the correct way to go.
Arkkyl, give some respect to the pulls from Callus. Vote, though, took way more damage than bargained for. There's a good little work from Trixtank to get himself involved in that to make sure that Vote had to check his position himself. So Arkkyl will survive, and beads were already on cooldown for that one. Zyrhoes in mid. No beads used there, but a quick portal gets him back to safety.
Cutlass showing the good side of Sylvanas, which I am not a fan of this selection recently. I think this has more downside than upside. The lack of mobility in the mid to late game makes this character a liability, not something that's really nice. So early game getting that pull, yeah, Cutlass, keep doing that, because I don't know how long the Sylvanas is going to look nice.
And that's kind of what Sylvanas is there for, is the pressure in the early game. As the game continues, realistically, he's there for the Lotus Crown more than anything else. Those extra protections he's going to give to his team.
20 extra prots with the hot, so it's going to last for a long time. Such a great choice here against what Team Rival are going to do. They're going to look to strip the protections. Callus, or excuse me, Team Dignitas are going to look to jump on the back line, and then Callus can go ahead and use the Wisps to allow his team to be a little bit more resilient against QvoFred, who can't be stopped by a front line.
Well, only thing that really changed this game, no Odin, no Aphrodite in the solo lane. It's Sobek and Achilles this time round, and Variety on the Achilles. He's going to put a bit of a beat down on Vote, on Deathwalker, I should say, who had to be careful there as Qvo was lurking around the corner.
Variety could have made a big play there and walked in front of the charged prey. That said, it's incredibly difficult to kind of predict that one, so not holding it against him. And either way, Dignitas do get what they were looking for on the right-hand side there. The invade on that blue buff. Deathwalker only level 4. It will be impactful.
Ooh, nice little pull again from Callus. Cancels the groggy strike. One of the issues with that groggy strike is it takes a bit of a wind-up, and you do slow down a little bit, so it allows people to aim a little bit easier onto you.
A bit of a wind-up.
Yeah. I mean, he's a sleepy guy, man. Like, it's a lot of movement for a guy that size.
I could read War and Peace in between the activation and the actual hit.
You could have respawned and saved your Phoenix. Your fountain, I should say.
Too soon.
Is it?
Too soon.
It's game 3. I mean, that happened in game 2.
Oh, my goodness. It actually still stings, man. Just out here from the commentary position.
So I saw Trixtank in between games. He quickly nipped to the bathroom. On the way back, he looked at me and went, throw. And the only thing I could say to him was, no, really? No, really?
That's the only thing you can say, because you are the savage.
I don't think I've ever seen a game thrown that hard before.
You know, that's a big statement, and I'm
I
hesitant.
think I'm still right.
I'm hesitant to agree, but at the same time, I don't have a counter argument. That really was a dastardly throw. But so I was talking in game about how you garner a lead and you can kind of make mistakes. Well, that's kind of the beauty of this setup, is that given the one-game advantage, they had an entire game to throw.
Yep.
I'm sure Dignitas aren't happy about it, but they already have the game advantage, so it's all right?
I mean,
question mark?
Imagine if this was yesterday and that happened in a best-of-3 scenario, and you have that situation there, then this becomes much more of a trickier situation for Dignitas up against Rival. Start this game, though. No kills so far, and last game we saw Rival get a bit of a lead in the duo lane. Was the real focus here, not to be this time. Right inside of Bryce is a bit of trouble here, because Ice is on the rotation.
Oh, and he dances in front of the ultimate! iceicebaby with a quick heads-up play enables his solo laner to find first blood. Wonderful play by iceicebaby.
What a great dash. I didn't think he was going to get in range with that dash, and he did, you know, and that was all it took to bring him down, cost him no other abilities.
It's funny because I had mentioned, you know, if Variety cut off the dash from Deathwalker, he would have gotten that first blood. iceicebaby cuts off the dash for Variety and gets first blood that way.
I still think he was more than likely dead there, even though that space and time was coming. He would have dashed away, but Ice still had another dash available. He dashed once in that scenario.
I think Variety is clean and clear.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's clean and clear because Ice's stuff is on cooldown.
So Rival get first blood yet again. This time, though, it's onto a Sobek. Not as prime as a target as it was on Vote on the Hachiman last game, but it's definitely the different side of the map, which tells you the pace of this game could be a little bit different this time. Zyrhoes will be once again looking for around that level 11, level 12 before we start to see him make those rotations.
And Rival also up 1,000 gold right now.
Yep.
Such a different scenario than where we saw Dignitas, not just in game number 1, but also throughout the course of the week. QvoFred has gotten his Robin twice in a row. and he's not been able to get that early game start that we saw that was so powerful earlier on.
3 members of Dig now grouped towards the mid lane, something reminiscent of the old season. 4 days there, not much farm really available elsewhere. Zyrhoes and Trix going to take a trip back to base. Boots online then for Trixtank. And in the mid lane, Zyrhoes just going to buy a couple more wards, still working towards that Chronos pendant.
So right now, Team Rival have the beginning of what could be a nice lead, although Dignitas have answered back a little bit by way of farm. So it has been really nice to see Rival actually get off to a start for first.
And let's go back to that start for first as well, because we get to see this play from Ice's point of view under the tower, thanks to all the way from Deathwalker. But this dash, it was a double, I'd tell a lie, I just didn't see the double come through. It was quick enough to block the shot and pick up the kill, and that puts Rival in a starting good position.
Quintosh sent you a DM, by the way, letting you know that it was a double dash.
Oh, did he? I'm glad he did. At least he called me out for it. That's the main thing.
Shout
he
out
atted me. That's the main thing.
Shout out to old LG coach. Fun times here.
Oh,
The studio,
Variety
in some trouble here.
Deathwalker, no real follow-up available. I don't think he had that tail whip. Otherwise, that could have spelled doom. But he's trying to deny as many creeps as possible here. However, Variety will be able to sustain back up under the tower, clear a couple of these minions, make sure he gets full gold for those before he does have to head back. Deathwalker's still thinking about diving at Quvo. He's actually waiting for the blue there, but I think if we saw Deathwalker go under that tower, Quvo would have jumped over that wall in a heartbeat.
Especially with just the boots. Not tanky just yet is Deathwalker. Kyle is just off the mark with that pull there. So Team Dignitas, again, this is not a concern for them. They don't really mind the early game pressure. They're able to really come back in the late game like we saw earlier in game number 1, believe it or not, that they lost, even though they were controlling that one for a long time after the mid game.
You saw the cameraman there just showing the iceicebaby, but keeps being caught on vision, looking to gank this duel in a little bit more, and that's why Vote is playing passive. He's hoping for a gank potential, but now Trixtank's on the left-hand side. Pressure has been relieved. Good ward coverage from Dignitas this game towards the duel, and it was something they were lacking at the start of the last one.
This time around, different tune. Trixtank actually brings a decent amount of clear on the Kumbhakarna, believe it or not. Decent damage on the throwback.
Depends on what you choose to max as well, though, because we've seen a couple of the Kumbhakarnas this tournament actually max the Yawn, and that's the big key. But throwback is maxed here. 4 points is all you really need. You don't want the 5th, because generally as a support, you're looking to make sure that you're going to have the last hit go to your carries so you can get credit for your thieves and your blessings.
Depends on the composition you're picking the Kumbhakarna into when talking about how you're going to level your abilities. If this is a Hunter middle lane, a Nemesis jungle, and Vote on the Hachiman, undoubtedly you see the Yawn leveled up first. But because it's just the Hachi and iceicebaby who's actually going to be ability-based for the majority of the early game, we don't need the attack speed deduction just yet, so you can look for the clear and the damage. Later on, we'll see that prioritized, and that'll cut down the Hunter as he goes forward.
We'll advise anyone playing the support role of Kumbhakarna to max your 1 first of all, at least. Don't go for the 3 at the start. It takes a lot of your team to help you out there, because you're not going to do much damage. However, funny enough, Kumbhakarna solo lane, you will max your 1 and your 2 over everything else. You want your Groggy Strike to deal damage as well to those minions.
I actually really like Kumba solo. I think it's I think there's untapped potential there. The god has a ton of clear and a lot of application, obviously. Similar lockdown potential to what Sobek brings. A little bit less damage, although you say that, the ult swings hard.
Well, it's also about the only issue with Kumba solo is his damage and wave clear, really. The throwback is also his escape, which puts him in an awkward spot, similar to that of a Hades. Right-hand side, both the junglers over here. Space and Time will connect with Deathwalker work through the wall, but Quvo's not feeling it there at all, realizing iceicebaby is on that side because of the ward. Space and Time on cooldown. Still no Chronos pendant just yet for Zyrhoes, and that's why we're not seeing too much aggression from Dignitas.
Yeah, they got to wait out for that CDR. Last time Team Dignitas in game number 1 made the big rotation, made sure to have the Chronos pendant online before usage of the ultimate, so that cooldown reduction would actually be applied. You don't get retroactive CDR. That's not how the game works, unfortunately. So Zero's waiting for that one to look for the full rotation, I think.
QvoFred just farmed up his jungle now, has his Crusher online. Meanwhile, iceicebaby a little bit further behind in terms of build, and that's probably build choice. So I tell a lie, he's just finished up his Jotuns now. So definitely 2 different design aspects or styles from the junglers this game.
iceicebaby wants to be able to use that ultimate as often as possible. It's old school Sunder, right? Stripping of the protections, additional speed, percent damage. It's an ability that's going to assist in the kills as well as get him his own. It's less about the damage there and just more about the frequency that he can do it. QvoFred, on the other hand, looking for the pure damage.
Well, the cameraman's telegraphing Ice as much as Dignitas is right now because this ward has been there the entire of the game.
He's not going to get there.
He's just wasting time realistically on this left-hand side now, unfortunately, trying to go for it. Do we expect to see some sentries come down if he's going to look for this option a few more times?
I mean, he hasn't noticed that they're warded, really.
He clearly does because he's like walking back away straight away, realizing that Arkkyl's not pushing up in this lane anymore against Vote.
Well, I mean, he does have the sentry in hand. We'll see if he opts for it later on, but certainly not the case this time. Trixtank, ooh, just wiggling past that.
Wlfy.
But here comes Qvo.
And Wlfy actually just managed to escape with the dash back to the safety of the invisibility ring. And that'll be all she wrote there, but Variety now in the rotation too. Wlfy in a bit of trouble this time though. However, Wlfy seems to have smelt that out here, and maybe the sound of just a ward over the wall there, giving away the situation.
Well, the vision going to go to Team Dignitas on the left side of the map. Oracles did go in their direction. Rival have the positioning, though, and could just start the Gold Fury even with the enemy vision on it, and that's exactly what they'll do. Already down to, well, it's irrelevant because they're leashing it.
They see Zyrhoes hanging around here. Does have space and time, too. One of the best secures in the game. If you can find the hit with the ultimate there. The other question is, though, is that Wlfy does have that golden apple, and that does deal damage to the objectives, too, if it passes through them.
Big combo potential coming out from the mid lane mage as well, but it's Zyrhoes that start the party.
Pick up a cut used by Trixtank. The up and down off the mark, I feel, from Qvo, but the overhead kick will most certainly secure it. Nice portal out of Zyrhoes to deny iceice giving chase. And Rival trying to collapse from the left and the right here with Callus and Deathwalker. Too little, too late. Wlfy's already dead.
The kill goes in Dignitas' direction, but something to be concerned about. Lack of communication there on the combo. You saw the knock-up come from Trixtank at the same time as the unstable Vortex, which means Zyrhoes missed his damage opportunity. Next time around, Team Dignitas have to make sure that doesn't happen. Early in the game, they can fudge those mistakes and kind of come through with QvoFred and finish things off. But later on, when players are more tanky and a little bit more resilient, especially looking at that Warlock staff being built right now, those mistakes are going to punish.
I'm really putting a lot of pressure onto Wlfy there because he was under his tier 1 tower anyway. That was just a whole deep dive, really, from Dig. I mean, he dashed away from the first aggression, and immediately they're like, we're still not done. We can still dive this tower and pick up the kill, no problem. And Rival just didn't have an answer.
I mean, with the players, with the characters that Dignitas have here, that is not the safest place to be, meaning the little cooldown cloud.
Sure.
The abilities are going to be bigger than the invisibility region, so Wlfy isn't really too safe there, even though this mage is traditionally thought of as pretty safe.
Giving Zyrhoes a bit of a lead now in the mid lane and in the jungle too. QvoFred just a little bit of hair ahead of iceicebaby. Deathwalker's going to get yawned on, and Unstable Vortex just, you know, checks the size of Sobek more than anything else and realizes he can avoid it. Gold Fury still leashed by Rival here, though. Deathwalker being looked at yet again, but he will escape with the pluck. Into the sky goes Arkkyl, trying to deny the Gold Fury. As was the space and time. The call seems to be go. Variety already in the back, got Vote.
Yeah, big damage coming out from Arkkyl. Cut down Vote low. Variety with the last hit. Following up, there's the ult onto Deathwalker. Variety waiting on the bottom. Portal, there's Unstable. A nice meditation to bring DW up, but the damage coming out from Team Dignitas, too much to handle. Arkkyl with another one.
Just want to give a lot of credit to QvoFred there. Not even seen in that fight. Yeah, he got a kill at the end of it. But he zoned away iceicebaby in the mid lane. He made iceice use his ultimate in the mid lane and sit between his tier 1 and tier 2 tower. Then after doing that, he walks to the back of the fight, blinks in, kills Vote. Great play from Qvo, great play from Dig.
It's the power of Robin, baby. He can do both. He can zone you out like a traditional solo laner, and then he can just kill you like a traditional jungler. The character does a lot, and QvoFred certainly prioritizing it for a reason. Gold and everything else in Dig's favor now.
I'm more surprised by how that engagement really started. I mean, Dignitas telegraphed it, and Rival saw it. They saw Arkkyl go up and went, okay, reset Gold Fury. Space and time came out. Didn't hurt anyone. Okay, let's just fall back. And yet Dignitas still win the fight.
You know what happened? Dignitas did the same thing that lost them game number 1. They ulted in a really predictable fashion, and everybody walked down the middle. Part of me wants to say Rival went, they won't do this again, right? And then they get engaged on traditionally.
Well, I mean, this time not all 5 members were grouped outside that portal waiting for it, I guess was the real difference.
I mean, they kind of were. Everybody was in that little corridor. Rival just couldn't collapse early enough. Arkkyl had pretty much eliminated that first kill from the fight already, and I think that's what tilted it in their favor, was that all Variety had to do was look at him, and he died. So nice stuff for Dignitas, combining off of the damage from the other teammates.
It's definitely funny to see the differences in the two solo laners this game as well, but it's more to do with playstyle that they've demanded of them in the compositions they're in. Deathwalker needs to be these fights early to look for the plucks, to look for the setup, and for the peel. Whereas Achilles gets to wander over a little bit later in these fights and go, what up? I'm a big old warrior that's going to slap you in the face. Don't be low health or I'll kill you too.
Yeah, and look at the build from Achilles as well. Hybrid all the way. He's got the Runic Shield and the Void Shield there, which of course are defensive in some respects, but also going to give him the power necessary to kind of do what Achilles does.
Well, iceicebaby just used his ultimate there. QvoFred ignored it. Looks for a bit of the pressure on Vote, won't find it. Deathwalker off the mark with a pluck, which means Variety will take that tower. And that's the first one of the game to fall.
Nice and easy there. Call that first rubble. You like that one?
Yeah, all right. I can see why, because it crumbles to rubble.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
If you don't like that one, blame Cret. It's an old Cretism that I stole.
Well, the on in mid lane from Trixtank just slowed down. He was a little bit overly aggressive there, but safe enough, playing the old Kumbhakana. His passive can bait a lot of teams in and make them forget about the fact that he will fall to sleepy time. At this level, though, that shouldn't be the case.
I actually really, I love the elegant design of Kumbhakana because he punishes hunters really hard, both with the amount of control he has and, of course, the attack speed reduction. But hunters are the best at killing him because it's all just basic attacks.
Variety's in trouble here because Callus is here on top. This time his ultimate will go through and get him back to safety, and Rival turned tail. Trixtank was just hanging around here in case, and Variety showing that he's not really worried now that the pressure has been relieved there, so falls back. Only cost him his thorns and his ultimate, which in the grand scheme of things is better than his life.
For sure. Still something that's probably a win for Team Rival, believe it or not. Deathwalker's ultimate, not really the same as Variety's.
Speaking of Deathwalker, again going with this meditation. He's the only real one that's been doing it this tournament in the solo lane, but he's gone back to it. Something of a relic of yesteryear, but still viable if you couldn't hit the later levels.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that. Meditation in general. So first of all, the application against the execute characters is fantastic. You get down at execute threshold, you meditation, you're no longer there, and you can sort of bait out abilities that way. But when you look at the two options for sort of mitigation, if you will, when you look at Shell versus meditation, Shell will traditionally be better in the early game and, of course, against basic attackers when you upgrade that for the block stacks. But late game, the heal is really big.
Rush from Dignitas on towards his Pyromancer. Deathwalker blinks in to try and slow this down and does so. Gets out of danger too, but Pyromancer not fully recharged just yet. They go back to it and burst it down.
Pyromancer will go the way of the blue squad. And that's the end of the fight. Vote, on the other hand, gets the tier 1 tower on the left-hand side. That's pretty much what Dignitas did last game, and it was a nice look for them. So Rival following in their footsteps. However, still a little bit short. 3,000 gold down, man.
Yeah, 3,000 and 3,000 experience too. Mainly on the characters that you want to see that experience on. The jungle and the mid laner really with the lead. Vote, however, has done a very good job over Arkkyl at the moment, even though he did die on that left-hand side.
Zyrhoes is really who I'm looking here. I really need to see Zyrhoes. I need him to forget game 1.
I think he already has.
You
reckon he's in his head already?
I don't think so. I'm not trying to pretend that I know what's in his head. I just know that he has to forget it. If he has already, it's certainly a great look because I need Zyrhoes to stay as aggressive as he was. Like I said, had he been on a different mage, I love that call, not necessarily on the Giannis. But the mentality to go for it is what Dignitas need to win this series. If they play it slow and drawn out, that's playing directly into what Rival want to do. You're playing Rival's game. Dignitas said in the pregame interview, and I sincerely believe as well, that Dig has to play their own game in order to be victorious.
And Rival themselves, they are a team that will fight to the dying breath within them every single time. However hard and however bad the situation looks, they will play to the end, the final whistle, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
And they did that in the last game, and that's what ended up winning them the game. Deathwalker, under pressure here, has to dash away to safety, eats the unstable vortex, but on that damage check from Zyrhoes, he's got a bit more damage he's going to need going forward.
Oh, but Wlfy being pressured on by Variety, ultimate available, will be healed up by Deathwalker's meditation. Nice job there avoiding the execute.
But the meditate now on cooldown. Qvo in the jungle meets Vote, but they're not going to really trade out there. Wlfy still being aggressive because he's looking to sustain back up with Achilles kit there. However, Arkkyl has pulled the Gold Fury.
A lot of vision denial here coming out from Team Dignitas. Concentrated effort. Right now, a very quick Gold Fury. I don't really think Team Rival can even respond if they wanted to.
Beautiful.
Deathwalker tries to get in there, but it's too little too late. And now Dignitas getting aggressive.
Now with that pull, Wlfy can get out of danger. The aggression's still on, looking towards Trix and Qvo. Qvo and Trix trying to get away, pull off the mark. The horse does connect onto Qvo and puts into danger. Qvo's dead and a good ult from Callus.
Team Dignitas now trying to respond after their jungler falls down. Oh,
Ooh.
nice stuff coming out from Wlfy through the wall
Good
there.
ult from Trix, though, at the end there. That little dash that you saw of him wasn't the throwback. That was actually his epic uppercut just to get him away from the extra damage that was coming through. But look at this. Rival are heading to the right-hand side. Fire Giant Game 1 was 22 minutes. Fire Giant Game 2 attempted at 22 minutes. But it's Rival this time.
I don't know if I like this call. Qvo's dead, sure, but this is certainly a fight that Dignitas can take.
Variety is putting pressure on Ice.
There it is!
Dig steal the Fire Giant. Only Qvo doesn't get it. Now Callus is dead. It's a game of throws, boys and girls. Variety gets a double kill. Celebratory end to that, and now on the right-hand side, a tier 2 tower's looming.
I feel like I feel like this was one of the most predictable sequences possible. Watching the Gold Fury go down, Dignitas should have fought into that. They don't. They try to escape, and they lose somebody for it. Really predictable. If they fought into that, maybe they're more successful. But the Fire Giant call from Team Rival, not the right play. Qvo's the only one down. Dignitas could respond, and they do. I don't know if it's just me, Hindu, but watching that exchange, I saw the writing on the wall from the second Rival crossed the mid lane.
Only issue I had with that call from Rival is no one was peeling. No one was trying to prevent them walking up to try and contest. That's where the issue was. And now Dignitas are going in, looking to brutalize Rival.
But it's Callus that's going to be cut down. There's the jump from QvoFred all the way to the back line. Callus goes down, so does the mid lane Phoenix. 5 players alive on Team Dignitas. QvoFred doesn't even need the belt. He's looking for the ring, and he's going to get the Phoenix on the way.
Do you reckon they go for a dropship here?
You almost got me, you.
I was trying. 8-2 then. Dignitas only have one tier 2 tower and a Phoenix to look at taking. And this Fire Giant's going to last a while now, Tom. Obviously, return to base, spend all the free gold, basically, that Rival just gave you, and then look to try and convert this into a final Phoenix.
You know, I always like to remind the fans at home when we see these sorts of things, especially after game number 1, how we got here. Don't forget, this is what Dignitas looked like in game number 1, but a much different scenario here. Let's take a look at the Fire Giant steal that got us to this point.
Well, you can see Variety's there, and only Callus really the one zoning, and then Zyrhoes walks through and goes, "Hello, friends, I am here. Unstable Vortex, how about one of those in your face?" Deathwalker, you see that? You just saw him slowly rise up with the lurking in the waters, but it was just ever so slightly, a fraction of a second slower than Zyrhoes' Unstable Vortex that came through. Rough break for Rival. Nice result for Dig, though. Karma, I guess.
So disappointing to see that, because like I said, I'm not the only one. I don't think I'm the only one that predicted that outcome. Left side Phoenix is going to be the focus here. Qvo coming up the middle lane. Everybody else here on the left-hand side. Zyrhoes, uncharacteristic miss, but there's the ultimates.
Well, space and time hits through. Not going to find iceicebaby there, but it was actually Trixtank under pressure. Zyrhoes comes through, using the Unstable Vortex on Callus, but now Zyrhoes in an awkward spot, has to pull away to safety. No Phoenix pressure, though. Nobody dies, but a lot of ultimates consumed.
Zyrhoes got to be careful about using those portals, especially around this corner. You can really get stuck there. Trixtank leading the charge. Left side Phoenix one more time.
Deathwalker with a blink plug, going to get the beads out of Zyrhoes into the portal, however. No follow-up available apart from the damage from Arkkyl. Arkkyl with the Executioner and Chins is making short work of the Crocodile.
Left side, still a focus target here. Variety leading the charge this time as Trixtank down to 40% HP. Vote going to avoid some of the nonsense from the Kumbhakarna. Arkkyl on the backside, keeping the target in mind. It's all about the Phoenix, ladies and gentlemen. Still hanging on by a thread, though, as Rival pushes forward.
It's still alive. They all ran just a hair earlier. Arkkyl just needed 1 or 2 more hits, and he couldn't get it. The Fire Giant is falling off any second, but they're still healthy enough to go in. It needs 2 hits. maybe 3.
Well, there's the blink forward, 3 playful men. Arkkyl gets the Phoenix,
no.
Zyrhoes gets the Hunter. iceicebaby in trouble. He's gonna go to the head of the solo lane. Collis gets all 3 shots injected into his backside, and Variety hits him in the front. The double for the big T, and this is revenge. Game 2 to Dig.
Well, there was a mistake in game 1 from Dig and a mistake from Rival in game 2. I don't even know what game 3 is going to hold now.
Listen, I was sort of getting at it before we got into the instant replay there, Graham. A lot of times I like to say, don't forget, listen, Dignitas had this sort of lead in game number 1 and Rival were able to fight back into it. That's not the case here. Dignitas lost game 1 by themselves in a mistake that we will not see repeated. It wasn't a communication breakdown. It wasn't a lack of awareness. It was straight up, they made a decision that didn't work, and this team is too smart to make that decision twice. This is the style that Dignitas is going to give us.
I really feel like it's time to look at taking the Giannis away from Zyrhoes in some way. It doesn't seem to be working out for Rival to leave it up. Although Zyrhoes has a very vast god pool, Toth specifically, something that he's played a lot of this tournament too, I just don't think you can give him the honors.
It's the difference in how these characters affect the game. All of the mages are going to do 50,000+ damage if you give them to Zyrhoes. Sorry, folks. But Giannis is the only one that can literally walk through walls and have his teammates do the same thing. The rotations, the ability to surround the players, the positioning, all because of the God of Portals.
Well, you guys get to make a decision on who you think was MVP for that one. I think we're both probably going towards Zyrhoes for that with the Fire Giant steal and the game-winning play.
I got to agree.
Well, let's head over to the desk to break down game 2, game 3. It's both of those things at the same time.
Dignitas taking the 2-1 series lead overall, but their first victory today against Team Rival. And that felt like one that Dignitas needed. It felt like a breath of air was released from Dignitas. They were able to actually take a lead off of a really risky Fire Giant call by Rival, and then close out the game quickly after that.
I was really worried because of the Giannis first pick for Dignitas, and because they lost that first game, they had the choice of first pick, and I wouldn't be surprised after this one if Rival are the ones to go for the first pick. I think outside of game number 1 yesterday, every single game was won off of the first pick.
I think what struck me the most, though, is that throughout this entire week, we've all been hearing how much EU has this disdain towards the Sylvanas pick, and yet Rival still opted for it anyway for Collis. And to me, that just seemed a little bit weird that a pick that they don't really value or view as even viable was actually going to be their last pick choice.
Well, I mean, at the same time, Rival has struggled in the early games, right? They've had great late game team fights, but it's difficult for them to get traction in the early game. Sylvanas may be there to try and gain some of that. And Rival had it after a little bit. This is right after Dignitas has gotten the Gold Fury. Rival chased them out, get a kill. And then, as Ataraxia and the Obey Boys call it, they rival this one. So go for the all-in on this objective, 50-50. Dignitas take it and the game becomes.
The only reason Zyrhoes was able to steal that was because of the mobility that Giannis has. Going through the portal, going through threshold, having so much extra movement speed. He was in position to steal that Fire Giant. Most mages wouldn't even get there in time. Lurking in the water, it is 50-50, but it was the movement speed that allowed that play to happen.
Sure, but it's not only that. It's just that Rival's willing to make that call and stick to it. I mean,
Sure.
Variety has teleport there. He teleports in. He knew what was coming. He presses tab. Oh, yeah, those are Rival players. They're going to pull Fire Giant here, basically no matter what. Variety's there. He harasses them long enough. It's just, do you like the call, basically, is what I'm saying. Do you like the full commit onto FG there?
It felt rushed, and I think that's kind of the same thing that Dignitas fell victim to in game number 1, where they started, I don't want to call it a sense of panic. I think that panic is a little bit too strong of a term, but they did seem as though they just wanted to be out of it, and they wanted to try and get as much of an advantage as possible and look to end things as quickly as possible, because the longer these matches go on, I would probably say that Dignitas are certainly going to be a little bit more favored.
They tried to make a power play. They picked off QvoFred. They had a 5-on-4 advantage for 30-35 seconds. They went for it. It didn't work out. They lost 3 members and a Phoenix on top of it. That was the game-ending play.
I don't know. I just feel like even if they get that Fire Giant, all 3 of those players are still dead
Yes,
to Rival,
absolutely.
right? So I don't think that that's necessarily what they were looking for. And Zyrhoes was the one who stole away the Fire Giant. Zyrhoes was the one who was doing everything basically all game long. That just showing the long-range accuracy there from the mid laner. on Team Dignitas, who again, on this Giannis, has just been nearly unstoppable so far in this game. Your Game 2 MVP, the mid laner for Team Dignitas, and well-deserved. Now...